Hey guys, Brian delivers you the goods here. I'm returning to you very late tonight for, I think it's going to be for the final video, and then tomorrow I'll get caught up on all the movie reviews and the TV show review for iCarly. Episode 12 review will be tomorrow morning. And yeah, this is going to be for a special video for worst movies of 2021 so far. So I don't know if I have to make two parts or whatever, but I'm going to discuss from 1 to 11 what movies are the worst, from 1 to 11, of course, and let you know what I thought of each movie. So let's dive into the first one, which is Shadow in the Cloud. Now, this stars, what's her name? I know her name. Chloe Grace Moretz, or something like that. And yeah, this movie was boring, to be honest. And it was pretty much, it wasn't that it was boring, it was just disappointing. And it was a fail, for sure. And I just did not like this movie. So, yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of this movie. And it came out at the beginning of the year, at the very beginning of the year. And I'm like, oh great, we get a trashy movie. How January-ish of you that you have to do it, Hollywood. But yeah, number one, I picked Shadow in the Cloud. Number two, I picked Malcolm and Marie. I did give it an 8 out of 10 when I reviewed it, but now, thinking over it a little more, I fucking hate this movie. This movie is so annoying. And they just bicker and bicker through the whole fucking movie, and I'm like, where is this going? You go from one part of drama that or bickering, and then another fight that you start up, and another fight you start up with just words and them trash talking each other. And I'm like, this movie's going nowhere. So if I were to rate it now, I'd give it like a 4.5 out of 10. This movie sucked. So yeah, uh, it stars what's his name, John David Washington in the movie, and also Zendaya. And I like John David Washington in this movie. Well, I wouldn't say this movie. He was enjoyable in Tenet for the action scenes, but and his character was not bad. But the movie was so fucking confusing that I had to give it a certain rating for that Tenet movie last year. But still, at number two, I picked Malcolm and Marie. Fuck this movie. At number three, I picked Tom and Jerry. This stars Chloe Grace Moretz again in another film, and Carlos Pena, who plays the hotel manager in this movie, or the assistant manager, or whatever, or something like that. And then there's a head manager in the movie. I don't know his acting name or his actual name. But yeah, I'll have to look into the cast of the Tom and Jerry movie. I meant to say. But I almost said Cherry. My bad. Uh, yeah, Tom and Jerry was horrible. I didn't like it. At least it's not the worst thing this year, but it is pretty bad. So, ugh. I think I rated it like a 4 out of 10 or something like that, and I think I'll stick with that same rating. Not feeling for this movie. And I didn't like the. Well, you can go watch my review, and I said a certain something at the beginning of this movie, like, these people that were in the movie, like Chloe Grace Moretz, her character seemed very careless and pretty like, oh well, I'm just gonna do it this way kind of thing or whatever, and pulled out did something at the beginning of the movie that I really didn't like, and it really fucked the movie up big time, and how the movie was going to perform. So at number 3, I picked Tom and Jerry. Fuck that movie. Number 4, I picked Cherry. Now, this was a movie that really was horrible. Tom Holland's in this movie. And it's not the actor's fault, it's just the script, mostly. This movie was a piss poor excuse of a movie. And whoever directed it and wrote the script really fucked up with how this movie's performance was. It just wasn't a good movie, to be honest. And I just didn't like Tom Holland in the movie. His character seemed, not like a great character in the movie. He goes to war, he signs up for the army, then he realizes he made a mistake joining the army. And now he has to go to the army, of course, and be in boot camp and then go fight off in a war. And then he comes back, he's all fucked up in the head. PSTD or whatever, PTSD I meant to say, post-traumatic stress disorder kind of thing, that he has. So he's really fucked up in the head because of the war. And then he turns to drugs, really strong drugs like heroin and all that shit. He becomes a junkie. And then he robs banks and other things like that. And this movie is a poor example of I don't know what you call it, but it was just a poor example of a movie. And I didn't like the narrative and what it was explaining to the viewer watching it. So fuck this movie. So at number 4 I picked Cherry. Number 5 I picked Thunder Force. Now this had what's her name? Melissa McCarthy and can't remember her name. She was in the Ma movie. Olivia something. I'll have to look into it again. But pretty much the movie's narrative and the script, it was funny at the beginning, and then the jokes started to get stale, and then it started to feel like a piss poor excuse of a movie. And sorry for my yawning, I'm just a little tired. I'm gonna be going to bed soon. But yeah, I really didn't like this movie, and it was just a bad script, and it didn't do so well. So at number 5, I picked Thunder Force. Number 6, I picked The Woman in the Window. Now this movie just, no. It's about this woman that believes, well, Amy Adams is in this movie, and I think she's a great actress. I just didn't like her in this movie, because she apparently is misjudging people, and she has a fear of going outside or whatever, so I guess she's like a agoraphobic. Yeah, she's agoraphobic. Uh, Afraid of outside and afraid of people. But she eventually uh, recovers from that towards the end of the movie. And then watching this movie, I was disappointed with how it turned out. So at number 6, I picked The Woman in the Window. Number 7, I picked Infinite. Now, I thought this was going to be the worst movie of this year, but apparently there's something even worse than that. Well, other movies that are worse than that. But Infinite stars Mark Wahlberg, who apparently has schizophrenia in the movie. in the movie. And then they reel him into this sci-fi-ish kind of world where there's beings called infinites, and then there's bad guys known as certain kinds of name or whatever. I don't fucking know what it was. But God, this movie was such horse shit. It just pissed me off, this movie. And the way it turned out, it it did not do very well, to be honest. And I just gotta say, fuck this movie. For real. This is the worst movie that I've seen this year. And there's even something much worse than this. So, yeah. At number 9, or number 7, I meant to say, I picked Infinite. Sorry if I said 9. I accidentally said that. At number 8, I picked Fast 9, also known as F9. Now, this stars Vin Diesel in it again. They don't have Dwayne Johnson or Jason Statham in this anymore, so they're not going to add them in the final few Fast and Furious movies to end the series. But, God, this movie's. And sorry for yawning so much. I'm just getting a little tired. But, yeah, God, this movie was so awful. And just the way that the action scenes turned out, I didn't like the action scenes that much. And the script was pretty corny and just not very good. It was mostly the action scenes that made it seem like that Vin Diesel, when he went through that wall, his head through the wall where John Cena picked him up, and then he hit his head through a doorframe wall. It seemed like he wasn't fazed by it. And then another guy that gets hit by a sign or whatever, or a traffic sign or whatever you call it, a highway sign, didn't get fazed by it either. So I'm like, this movie is so ridiculous. And the ridiculousness and the new things they go through with this movie. They even sent Tyrese and Ludacris out in space in this movie, and I'm like, what the fuck is that about? So this movie really flat out sucked. And there's no way I'm purchasing this movie, so fuck this movie. So F9 can go fuck itself. And at number 8, I picked F9. That's going to be it for part 1. I'm going to have to return to you for part 2 for the last 3 movies I'm going to talk about. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed part 1 for worst movies of 2021 so far video. I did the best I could to make it as good as possible. Stay safe, take care, and I'll see you soon in part 2 of worst movies of 2021 so far.